Welcome to Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis. Question of the day is, there are some rackets out there that's just kind of too hard to play with. Is it too heavy? Is it too long? Is it too big? Well, probably all of the above or some of the above. I'm going to talk about that today. Stay tuned. All right, guys. So before I get going today, I want to thank my coffee sponsor of the day, Dave Houst. Thank you, Dave, for pitching in and getting me a dark roast today. If you want to support the channel, support my coffee habit, network is buymeacoffee.com/tennis spin. Link is below. Cheers. So the hardest rackets out there today to play with, I'm going to talk about why they're so hard to play with. Too heavy, number one reason why they're so hard to play with. And a lot of people actually think they can play with this because the heaviest racket that's on the retail market is one of the most popular ones. Why is it so popular? Because it's endorsed by Roger. So guys, this is the last time I checked, this was the number 6 top selling racket in the nation. That means a lot of people are using this racket or buying this racket that probably shouldn't be. I'm just going to show you real quick. You guys probably know this already. It's a 12-ounce racket. The reason that this racket is semi-playable to most people is that it's 12 points head light, which means that it actually comes through the air pretty quickly. And of course, this is unstrung spec. By the time you put the strings on it and that overgrip, you're probably pushing about 12.7 to 12.8 ounces. And you're probably altering the head lightness of it too. But because it starts off at 12 points head light, it still kind of comes through the air. But there is a lot of heft to this racket, like a lot of heft. So, I mean, I think most people who buy the racket kind of know what they're in for. Either that or they're a big Roger fan. Like myself. You know, back in the day, I would have wanted to play with this racket. But now, in my old, wiser years, I kind of know better. You know, I'm, old. I can probably only tote this around for a set. And then that second set, I'm just going to be dragging racket for the second set and kind of struggling to get the ball deep without putting sitters up there for the other person to put away. So we kind of have to, realize our expectations on the court. And as much as we love Roger, we can't all be Roger. Okay? So weight is one of them. And it's kind of the same thing for these two too. So the stand racket is kind of up there in weight too. It's 11, I'm going to flip the placard around, guys. It's 11.6 ounces before strings. Again, that 97 square inch head size. Now, this kind of has the same problem as this. It's heavy, it's thin, there's not a lot of power to it. It drags. So this one, to me, feels like there's more weight in the head. And I'm talking about the 330 version, the heavy version. There is a slightly lighter version than this too, that isn't as bad. And so there's a lighter version of this too. And those two are probably not as bad as these heavy versions. So, but, we want to suffer. No, just kidding. No, we just think we can tote this around. And I get that. I like weight. I like weight that would be a little thicker. But for you guys who, are getting a little older, maybe your glory days are slightly behind you, these rackets are tough. They're just tough to play with now. I feel like unless you have complete command and you're in great shape, like this particular racket would be hard to kind of come over. This racket wants to come right through, and it's hard to kind of control. So, like I said, though, if you're of that caliber of a player and you can handle it, hey, by all means. But don't be that person hanging on to your glory days. All right? Now, speaking of smaller, this sucker is small. It's a 95 CX200 Tour. This is a great racket if you're a great player. That's the thing. It's an 18 by 20, so you got a dense string pattern, you got a thin beam, you got some weight on this thing. So if you're big, tall Kevin Anderson who can serve up like 150, right? Totally fine. And you're in shape, totally fine. But again, we'll be struggling with power. It's a smaller head even. It's lighter overall though. I believe this comes in at about 11.3 ounces before strings. So it's under the weight of the other two. But because of the head size and the denser string pattern, you're going to be struggling for power. So if you use if you're trying to use any of these three and you're just not able to get the ball out of there consistently over 2 sets, well, I'm telling you, get something lighter. Or get something easier to play with. Now, the last racket that's the hardest to play with, I mean, for like the last 8 years, I used to see a ton of these on the court. Like, we've had ATP players using this racket. Yeah, that's true. And I'm like, what the heck? So it's the limits of what a racket can be. 29 inches. Yes, long. See the difference? $137 square inches. On a 9.9 ounce frame though. So the whole thing weighs less than 10 ounces before the strings get put in. But because it's 2 inches longer with a big head and they don't want you to get tennis elbow, like all the weight distribution is out towards the head. So if you held it from here, you'd be like, damn, that's heavy. And I feel it. All the weight is way out here because of the 2 inches longer here. You don't really have to swing with this. Although I see people trying to swing with this. It's kind of, almost senior tennis. You just kind of have to come here and just kind of swat it back, right? Just push it back. The racket will do the rest for you. But I saw a lot of like 4-5 players, 5-0 players trying to hit with this because you really do get a benefit from this racket when you strike it clean, right? It's a super heavy ball. You could impart a lot of spin on it, but it did eventually kind of injure you over time, especially your shoulder on the serve, a lot of elbows from that backhand slice. I mean, if you played seriously and you played with this racket, you're probably not using this racket anymore just because of those reasons. I know it was fun, it was easy, but it's probably something that's meant for your dad or your grandfather. Okay? Although it's their best-selling racket ever. And I get it. I tried it before too. I just couldn't handle the power because anybody who wants to swing, swing, this be hard to control. And it's hard to control yourself when you have a racket in your hand and you want to swing as hard as you can, but you kind of really can't do it with this. You kind of have to retrain the mind and retrain the body to kind of let the racket help you. Okay? So these are the 4 rackets I've chosen that are kind of too hard for most people to use. If you have any others to add to that list, let me know. Okay? I would like to hear from you. Okay? Thank you for watching Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis.